Did you have a good day, Nicholas?
Yeah, it was
How was your commute? Good
commute.
commute?
I'm not a commute fan. Definitely not a
Yeah, I
commute
was
fan.
gonna say we're an hour later than we know we should be starting there, Nicholas.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of public transit. Not a fan of transit in general. I like being home.
Well, with that said, my
Hmm.
friend, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of all ages. The Dork Shared Gooniverse and Geeks Worldwide Radio proudly presents to you the greatest podcasting team in the world. He's the Fry guy, Nick Friar. I'm the sick boy, backcracker, Dr. Joe. Together, we are the TLDR podcast, baby. Nicholas, how's it going?
Wow, you were able to hold a note that long with how congested you are. I'm very impressed. I got to be
Yeah, the
honest.
rest of the show, I'm fucked for the rest of the show.
Well, you know what? You blew your load now. That's when you got to do it. It's the most important part of the show because that's when everybody's catching us on Twitter or Twitch when they're streaming along, swiping, and everything like that. And if you're just finding us randomly, also on YouTube, make sure you go check out one of our audio pages where if you're like me and you're making that hour-long plus commute now, you can go and listen to our podcast. Usually we're about an hour long. So, hey, if you're going into Boston every day or New York, wherever you're listening to us from, I know we're big in Germany for some strange reason. You can listen to us on your commute on the way in. We're available on Apple, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, Geeks Worldwide Radio, SoundCloud. And that's the only place you're going to find our Friar Side chats. Those are the interviews that we do with creators from the business. Definitely want to check all that stuff out. But Joe, enough about that. Well, we are finally doing a mainline episode for this the spooky season. Took us long enough, man. It's been we definitely have no shortage of scary books to talk about, but we just haven't been able to because we had the special that we did for Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. We had Kieran Gillen on the show to wrap up Once and Future, which was huge and so much fun, both the series and the conversation. And then, of course, we have our monthly solicit that we do in the first week. So it's good to finally hear you talk about a scary book that I've been freaking like dying to read, but I've had to wait because of that stupid decision that we made a while back.
Right, it was terrible. So it's funny because I think it was like halfway through September. We're looking ahead and like I'm going, holy shit, we're gonna get main lines. We're gonna get 3 main lines in a trade
Yeah.
where we're gonna be able to like hope for the first time we'll actually have a spooky month because with the book that I'll be talking about today, I had also planned to talk John Lee's Sink, which I will talk about on this show at some point, but I had that planned. And then I had one other spooky book, and then we had a trade, which we were going to do a spooky trade. So we were going to really, because the first year that we did TLDR, we had a great spooky month of October. And then last year, same thing as this year, like we had interviews, we had specials, we had trades. So like we're getting to one book, but I feel like we're not the only ones in the DSG that have been kind of plagued a little bit by not having a lot of spooky stuff to talk about, this month. So love the Lord of the Rings talk that we had last week with other Billy D, and who coined the term what was it, the Andor,
Blandor.
more like Blandor, which was fucking great. So there's been a lot of great TV out lately. So a lot of things that people have had to talk, but I'm excited to talk spooky books today. But before that, Nicholas, we should probably catch up and then talk about what's new.
Yes. So catching up real quick for me, the big one has been Deathstroke. There are a few different things that I looked at, but that was the big one right now. And for me, Dexter Soy is the artist on this series. And I say it all the time. Like I anytime he's drawn stuff, I want to be checking it out. Sure, there have been some projects at DC that he's worked on where I just maybe haven't cared quite as much, but I love me some Deathstroke, and they're doing like Deathstroke year 1 right now. Green Arrow's in the mix. So it's been a lot of fun. We got the 14th issue of that out this week. So I'm fully caught up on that one right now. That was just the one I wanted to touch on, but what about you?
So I caught up on X-Men. I was 2 issues behind on X-Men, which I've been enjoying, but it's been, I feel like someone who's jumping into this series like in the middle of a run, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? Which is bananas because I've been reading this since its relaunch, since issue 1, but because of all of the big, huge, massive Kieran Gillen event. I just haven't been reading that. So
Sure.
just reading regular X-Men, it's been a little, it hasn't had that flow issue, but caught up on that. Caught up on Dark Spaces Wildfire issue 4 that came out, I think last week, might have been the week before, but that's a TLDR worthy book.
And you
Can't
have
wait to
dibs on
talk
that.
about it. Can't
Mhm.
wait to talk about it on the show. It's Scott Snyder and Hayden Sherman. It's been
Hey, good job.
thank you. It's been excellent. And then Batman the White Knight. I caught up on issue 5. Issue 6 we'll mention comes out in a little bit. Caught up on that. I've got some interesting thoughts on that, Nicholas, that I'll dive into in just a few moments.
I'm excited to hear about that, but let's get to Marvel first as we start off. What's new? I got you, Joe. The Amazing Spider-Man issue 12, Moon Knight Annual issue 1, which of course I'm reading Moon Knight, Venom issue 12, Axe Judgment Day issue 6. You mentioned that earlier. New Mutants 31, Doctor Strange, or I'm sorry, Strange issue 7. The Variants issue 4, Star Wars Dr. Aphra issue 25, Exterminators issue 2, Thunderbolts issue 3, which I got to go back and check out issue 2 on that one. Iron Cat issue 5, X-Men Legends issue 3, Strange Academy Finals issue 1, Wild Cards, the drawing of the cards issue 4, Mech Strike Monster Hunters issue 5, Ultraman Mystery of the Ultraverse issue 3, Joe, and then the title that we're both reading but you wanted to discuss in particular, Wolverine issue 26.
Yeah, this was a series I think that I caught up on, while I was up in Canada, because I was a couple issues behind. So I made sure I read this one today. All caught up.
Mm,
Oh, it is fucking terrific.
yeah.
Oh, it's good. It is a doozy. Just I love Benjamin Percy's writing, with this character. I mean, he's been doing a great job with Ghost Rider too, but there's just something inherent that he knows about Wolverine and he gets. And there is the way this particular issue ends, Nicholas. You're gonna be like, what the fuck? But what I love particularly about this issue is typically I can't stand the data pages, the white pages. They've gotten a hell
Sure.
of a lot better with those,
Mm-hmm.
right? And Percy does something a little bit different, right? There's a little white page at the beginning, as always, that kind of summarizes the where the story is at, which I appreciate. But then there's a character that we meet, and there's the CIA sort of classified document, like memos that are put
Mm.
in there from one of the characters that we're familiar with from the series, and it's just done so well. And so when it all sort of comes together in this particular issue, you go, "Huh? Oh fuck!" And then again, I wish I was behind, because I wish I was like. So when issue 27 came out, I could have read 26 and 27 back to back, because now I got to
Mm.
wait a whole month to see where the fuck this is going. But it was excellent.
It's tough doing the Lord's work, but somebody's got to do it, Joe. And I
I
appreciate you
know.
doing it. But you
Yeah.
know what? It's funny is I swear to God, the last time that you talked about Ghost Rider on the show, you said that the inverse. You're like I love what Benjamin Percy does with Wolverine, but it feels like he just gets Ghost
Yeah.
Rider in a certain way. And the
It's
fact that you're
bananas.
saying that, whether it's month to month or every other week, whatever it is, I forget their scheduling, but it's awesome because that just goes to
Yeah.
show how great of a command he has of both of these characters.
Yeah, because like there is that gap in between, and so you forget you because
Sure.
it's very much recency bias, and I guess the overall point is that he really gets those characters. He understands them. I feel like after talking with him a few times now, that he is sort of like there's a little bit of those characters in him, and I'm not talking about like Ghost Rider, but mostly
Johnny Blaze.
Johnny Blaze, right? There's some Johnny Blaze in Benjamin Percy. There's some Logan, right, in Benjamin Percy, and he writes them. He writes them so well.
Yeah, he really does. I think well, we've definitely deciphered that there's quite a bit of Logan in Benjamin Percy.
That is for damn sure.
That is unquestionable. That is stone cold fact. We move over to DC and we got Detective Comics 1065, which I know you're on top of. Action Comics 1048. What?
You don't want me to talk?
No, you're sick. I was trying to help you out and give you a breather.
You hogging everything here.
You know what, Joe?
You know
Yeah,
what?
I am. You go ahead. You go ahead. I got you. Go ahead.
The people want to hear my voice,
They do, but you're
raspy,
the one that's going to
congested, or
talk.
not. I'm fine. It's my Jordan game, you know?
Mm.
I'm at my best when I'm at my lowest.
Okay, remember
Uh,
that at the end of the episode. Mhm. Lowest. You're always pretty low anyways. I mean, you're not
I
exactly the
am. I
tallest
am
person I know.
5'6" on a good day with the right pair of shoes. Detective Comics 1065. This continues to be stellar. Rom V is doing a great job with this. Action Comics 1048. DC versus Vampires issue 10, which which you've been reading.
Mm.
Harley Quinn 23. The Human Target number 8. I have to catch up on this. I haven't read that. I need to read issue 7 and this one as well. Catwoman Lonely City number 4. Deathstroke Inc. number 14. Tim Drake Robin number 2. Batman Fortress number 6. DC Horror Sergeant Rock versus the Army of the Dead. Punchline Gotham Game number 1. I wanted to read this and I didn't. And
Oh.
but the other one that this one intrigues me. I didn't really have any interest in reading this book, but when I was at Newbury Comics today, they had a couple of really cool covers. There was a Red Hood cover that I almost snagged. The cover made me want to read it. So Batman Gotham Knights, Gilded City number 1.
Who was it? Just straight up Red Hood on the cover?
Well, this was one of the variant covers. It was in a plastic bag, so I don't know if there was like a trading card in there or something. But I
Uh,
almost bought it. It was fucking badass.
It wasn't
And
Kirkham, right? Because I feel like he did or maybe it was a Hal Jordan thing he did recently. I thought he did like a Green Lantern crossover. For some reason, I thought it was for this.
yeah, I don't know who the artist was. It just
Okay, you would have
looked
known if it was Kirkham.
awesome. Yeah.
Okay,
It just looked awesome.
hmm,
Let's see here. Young Justice
looking it up.
Targets number 4, DC Mech number 4, Batman the Audio Adventures
Oh,
number 2.
in comic book form.
In comic book form, but we've got I two books here in particular that I want to discuss.
Yeah.
One I teased earlier, so I'm going to start with that one, and that's Batman Beyond the White Knight issue 6. This is a book that we've sort of been like we both love, the Murphy verse and the previous White Knight books. Love them, love them,
Yep.
love them, love them, love them, love them. And even the Harley Quinn written by Katana Collins series was excellent. So we are very excited for this one, and I think where the letdown there was two letdowns with this. One, wanted more Batman Beyond, wanted more Terry McGinnis. I
Hmm.
thought I thought he was going to be the star, and he hasn't been, and that's been a bit of a letdown. The other letdown was that we had the little Red Hood 2-issue arc. Um, sort of stall this story a bit in terms of like there was a delay, it was a 2-month delay between I think it was issues 4 and issues 5, and that
Yeah.
Red Hood story was just kind of meh to
Yeah. That was
begin with.
tough.
So like,
That was tough.
so like there's a point here where I'm like, I this is it's not great. I gotta tell you, issues 5 and issue 6 were excellent,
Oh, good.
excellent,
Good.
excellent, excellent, excellent. Still, it's a little too. It gets a little too meta, between that
Hmm.
dynamic between Bruce and Napier, right? Which we've
Okay.
we've seen already. It's not a spoiler, right? Just like
Sure.
we've seen, so that gets a little weird. But
Okay.
I've got to say, the actual story in the last 2 issues and what we get and what is uncovered has been excellent.
Okay.
So I know you're probably a little behind.
I am behind on this one because the Red Hood stuff like slowed us down, and also it was just like before it was like okay, it's been fine. Like the first 4 issues were fine, but they weren't
Read
knocking my
issues
socks off. It wasn't
so read issues 5. Make it a priority to read issues 5 and
for
6,
sure.
and I think you'll be like, okay, yes, that is more what we're used to. It's still like
Good.
it's still not like on the level as the other ones, but it's much better than, because I was about to just say, I'm done with it, kind of thing.
So in the end, how would you? Because obviously I haven't finished it, but going into these last 2 issues, right now my rankings are like one is the first series is the best, then 2, then 3.
Yeah, it holds that way, but I think this one, it just inches a little bit closer,
Mm,
right? I think there's still a bit of a gap. Like I'd even put Katana Collins as Harley Quinn above it,
hmm.
right? But I, I
That
I
was good.
say
Yeah, that
that
was very good.
but I say that with like, okay, this is become much better now. It's like not as far back. It's not like a huge gap now between those and this one. It's a little bit it because the first two White Knight books, they're so good. And
Mhm.
they're really for me like 1A and 1B storytelling
That's what I
wise
was
very
trying to
good.
I was curious because I
Right.
know you read actually the second one before you read the first one, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So excellent, excellent. So like this gets it gets much better, but it's still there's still a bit of a gap. Like it's
Mm.
not like I wouldn't go 1A, 1B, and 1C. I go 1A, 1B, Harley Quinn, 2, and this is 3 kind of thing. That's
You
how
know,
I
and
go.
it sucks about because they made a change. You know, Sean Murphy made a change to Red Hood and Nightwing's history in this story, and it kind of sucks because I would have liked to see him mess around with it a little bit more than they did. It just didn't really fully work for me. So well, I'll see where 5 and 6 are because who knows? That's some of that stuff come up. The Nightwing stuff's been very interesting, but
I think they kind of flipped the two characters is what he's kind of
yeah,
done, right?
yeah, in a couple ways they did. Yeah.
And there's a great moment between Bruce and Dick that happens in issue 6 that I think you'll enjoy very much. I know I did, and it really swung me around. Like, okay, this is a much better series than I thought it was going to be. So Batman
Mm,
Beyond the White Knight, issue 6. I was a
okay.
7 issue series.
No, I thought that's not the end. I thought it was 6 for some reason.
No,
That wasn't the
there's
end.
another one. No, no, no,
There
no.
is another one.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
So Dick swung
yeah.
you around. Okay, that's good to
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Dick always Dick swinging. But
Interesting.
but the book I want to really discuss, I
Yeah,
called dibs on this immediately, is sorry, Riddler, year one,
so
written
good.
by
Absolutely
Paul
loved it.
Dano. Yeah,
Absolutely loved
yeah,
it. It was so awesome. How do you like it, asshole?
yeah. Well, I called dibs. Dibs,
Mm,
dibs,
mm,
dibs, dibs, dibs,
mm.
dibs, dibs,
Yes.
dibs,
I
dibs.
would like everybody to know that Joe, every time I call dibs, Joe's always like, yeah, okay. Like he's not just
Yeah.
on Twitter, like he texts me that stuff too. And then he sends me a note, like a grimace face every time too, like as if he accidentally read it and totally forgot because of the one time. Well, you know what? You go and now then he texts me today. He's like dibs like 15 times because I screwed up on what was it that I screwed up on that I accidentally read? I can't
Well,
remember.
no, you didn't screw up on. I screwed up. I forgot
Um,
that you'd called dibs. Uh, it
it
was
was
a
the second one.
miscommunication. It was a book that I didn't read. I can't remember what it was. People don't fucking give a
Oh,
shit.
it was that it's that Boom book, but we'll talk Boom. Whatever. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Anyways,
yeah, yeah.
tell me about Riddler Year One.
So Riddler, year one. Pardon me.
Briar.
Excuse
That's
me.
what it was.
Briar. Yep. Excuse
Yes,
me.
you got Briared. Okay, that's what it was. But yeah, Riddler Year One's been everybody's radar for a while, so I'm curious to
Yeah.
hear how this was.
So when this was announced that Paul Dano was writing a Riddler book, I think that sort of piqued all of our interests,
Sure.
and so we're all like, "Ooh, this could have potential." But then we also have like, "Oh, is it going to be like good or is it going to be like Patton Oswalt?" Right? You just never know, right? Is it going to be
Or
like
Keanu
Berserker?
Reeves. Yeah, exactly.
People fucking love it. Side note, I keep seeing shit on Twitter like Berserker is so amazing. It's blah, blah. I'm like, did you fucking read it? I don't think you read it because you wouldn't be saying that if you read it.
I gotta go
Uh,
back and finish it. I tried to stay with it, but there was like a pause, like after I said I was gonna stay on it. I think
that's
there's
another
one more
book that's
issue.
taken like fucking 10 years to come out.
Uh,
Fuck
I
Berserker.
mean,
Anyways,
yeah. Anyways,
Riddler, year one, written by Paul Dano. Excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent. If you could look the artist up for me, because I forgot to write it down. The artist does a great job of capturing what Paul Dano looks like because he incorporates that like into the art of the book. So what we get here, right, is an origin of Paul Dano's Riddler in the movie The Batman, which I thought he did an excellent job. And so I was a little curious how the writing was going to go and how he was going to approach it, what type of story he was going to tell. And this first issue is so good because he, as an actor, right, he had to tap into he had to tap into, what he thought the character was going to be, how he wanted to portray the character. And that's exactly what he presents on the pages in this book. Stephen Subik, thank you, is the
mhm.
artist. Brilliant, brilliant art because it's dark. Like you get the feeling of Paul Dano's, portrayal of the Riddler in the movie is someone who is obviously, you know, mentally unhinged. There's a dark past there. And he tapped into that in his portrayal of him, but he also taps into that in his writing of this
Mm.
book. And Subik's art is, I think, captures that, sort of there. You get a feeling of mental illness when looking at the pages. It's like
Oh,
it's wonderful, right?
okay.
In the most, like, not that mental illness is wonderful, but like just watching it, looking at it, reading it, like,
Hmm.
oh God, you feel it. You
Hmm.
feel this guy's pain. You see
That's
it,
crazy.
and like, it's almost as if, like, you're sort of transported into, the character of the Riddler as you're reading
Wow.
this story and going through. So absolutely excellent. I can't wait. I don't know how many issues this is supposed to be. I'm assuming it's probably going to be 5 or 6 issues.
Hmm.
But the story, how he sets it up, you start to see, you start to plant the seeds of, him on the message boards, and he's actually trying to do good things. It's just, again, that's another example of a character who's trying to do good, but just constantly gets stepped on. And what
Hmm.
he uncovers, like, there's a good mystery here. Like, he's a sleuth, and so I can't wait to see that transformation from, like, downtrodden, mentally ill guy trying to do good, trying to do the right thing, and then when that switch happens to go from, good guy to bad guy. So absolutely loved it. This was much better. I was very, very shocked by how good this was, because I wasn't expecting much.
So I'm glad to hear that, and I'm bummed that I got to wait out on this. But hey, that's the game that you and I have decided to play. But I love your description of Steven Subik's art. Like that's huge. Like to hear that, like the way and how it makes you feel like you're like seeing the world from the characters' like eyes. I know sometimes artists do that, but the way you described it, I think is brilliant. So that just that like, I can't wait to get a look at this series. I know I'm gonna have to wait a lot longer than everybody else, but it sounds like this is a must read if you are a DC fan or
Yeah.
a Batman fan.
Yeah, it was a really good first issue. I hope it's able to carry that steam. I don't see why it wouldn't, though. So
Right. One would think. I mean, especially when you're talking when you got to like, again a writer who portrayed the character and has a very good feel for the character, and then you have an artist who seems to have like a really impressive style, and that's going to tap into the character well. So I'm very excited to hear you talk
yeah,
about it more going down the line. Awesome stuff. Then we got Image. We got a couple books that we want to talk about from here. We got Image issue 7, Lovesick issue 1, which I know our guy Ferg checked that one out, and did a review on Geeks Worldwide. I gotta check this thing out. I thought it seemed pretty interesting. Sins of the Black Flamingo issue 5, 20th Century Men issue 3, American Jesus Revelation issue 1, which this is Mark Millar, and I need to check this out. I've known about this series for a while. This is just, I think, a continuation of what he's done in the past. I forget who the artist is. But speaking of him, we also got the Magic Order issue 3. I'm sorry, Magic Order volume 3. Issue 4 is out this week, as well as Flawed. We just had Chuck Brown on the show a little while back to talk about that. The second issue of that is out. And then we got 2 more books show that we wanted to dig into. We'll go with the one that I want to talk about that I'm reading on my own. So Rogues Gallery, which is co-written by our guy Declan Shelby, who we had on the show a while back to talk about Old Dog. Cannot wait for the second issue of that to come out. And he kind of broke down his role in this series, so where he seems it's like he's more of an editor in this role. He's still writing in some capacity, but he's kind of helped oversee everything. In the end, I think Rogues Gallery is an interesting commentary. I think it is a solid book. I think a lot of people will like. I think if you like comics and if you like comic book movies, it is worth your time. I don't know that I can go and talk about this at great length on TLDR. I feel like it's similar to Good Boy, where it's like there there's a little more depth to it than Good Boy. Like Good Boy is like a fun action story. It's like John Wick, but it's the dog that lived. Like there's
yeah,
you know like you know exactly what you're getting there. With this, there is an interesting commentary on fandom, with comic book movies, and then like what actors go through because Declan Shalvey's co-writer on this series, the lead writer on this series, is an actress, where she's talking about all everything that that actors kind of fear, and a lot of that comes to realization in this story. So I do think that this is a good series. I can't go and say like, yes, this is an absolute TLDR series where I feel like, most people that I talk to who like comics, you should check this out if you're always looking for different stuff. I think it's solid. And I think, because the big thing for me, I talked about it throughout the course of reading it, was the ending of the first issue, the ending of the second issue. I don't think I ran into it in the third issue. But those first two issues, the final like page was just like, wait, what? It was like, it felt like it was just such a huge shift and it didn't make any sense. It was almost like a cover within the book. And I'm all about having a splash page on the final page, but it didn't make sense for the flow of the story. So it left me kind of confused. So I give it like I think if it's a book's like an 8 out of 10 for us, sometimes you can talk about it on the show. But in this case, I don't think that I will. We also have a long list of books, but if you're interested in Rogues Gallery, if you thought about picking up, I think it's an interesting concept and something that you'll be able to read pretty quickly in one setting. But there's just a lot of other good books out there. That's kind of the problem. So solid, I guess, is what I give it at the end of the day after the 4 issues. But something that's quite a bit more than solid, Joe, is Vanish. And we got the second issue of that this week. I know you highlighted this first, but I want to talk about it as well. But what were your thoughts?
Oh man, it's just so good. It's so freaking good.
Yep.
And I love the main character, because what I love more than anything is a deeply flawed character, and we see a lot of that this issue. We holy smokes. There's a sequence in this book that goes back and takes a look back at history, and
Yeah.
you're like, holy fuck, man. Like,
Yeah. It's like, they're really going to go there? Like, it's
yeah.
not too soon, but it still kind of feels like it's too soon. I don't know.
And it's done in a way where it's not like it's sensitive. It's a very important, plot device, to kind of, give you more depth into this character in the world in which, he lives in. But like, that was absolutely wild how they did that, but then how it ended, and where this story is going to go. I think, again, this is up there. This is gonna, I hope there's a, we're gonna get 1-2 more issues by year's end. I hope that's enough for us to really be able to, give it heavy consideration for book of the year.
Yeah.
It might not be enough, but man, it's really
I
good.
don't know, dude. I don't know. It feels like it's my front runner right now, honestly, because these first 2 issues have been absolute friggin' bangers. And we meet it like, so yeah, you talk about it, like we get this very, very uncomfortable sequence right out the gates in this book. And I could not believe it. I legitimately said to myself, like, Donnie and Ryan are actually going to go there right now. Like,
But it never actually
cannot
made
believe
me
it.
feel uncomfortable, which is wild considering what it is. Because I think they did it in a very, they handled it very well.
They did.
And
They
and they
did. But
did
at
it in
first
such
I
a
was
way.
uncomfortable. Like, I first see it and I'm like, oh, really? Like, how
Well,
are you going to navigate this? And it's like, okay, you did a good job.
you see you see something that is very distinct, like,
Mhm.
and you go, okay, you, are they where are they going to go with this? And then you see, and you go, oh, and then you think they're not going to do it. And so
Yep.
it's they pull it off. But I never, I guess what I wanted to say was, at no point did I ever think it was tasteless,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that was okay. Whew, okay, but they pulled it off.
But you want, I mean, that's what we want, I think, at the end of it all, like, especially when we're talking about indie books, we want things that push the limit. We want things that make us feel uncomfortable in certain ways, whether you're talking about a horror book that makes you maybe have trouble sleeping at night, or in this case, if it's, taking a look at society and then going and taking a really important event in this country and then like just adding a twist to it where it's like, oh, like you don't know how it's going to go. And you like that stuff. Like, I mean, we like that
Yeah.
stuff because it's pushing boundaries. And that's with, with the big 2, sometimes they can push certain boundaries, but it's really not like that, not that
Yeah.
kind of a thing.
Not using that imagery, that's for damn sure.
No, that is for freaking sure. And also, we meet a new character in this. We're not going to mention the name, but
Yeah.
Infinite potential with this
Yes.
character too, where
Oh yeah.
Oliver's gonna kick ass, and his wife too. We're very excited about her moving forward. But we meet a new character who's gonna be very important in this mix. So I cannot. And Eleanor, I believe, is Oliver's wife in the story. But yeah, like they're doing a great job through these first 2 issues. Cannot wait for issue 3 from Ryan Stegman, friend of the show. Make sure you go check out that interview if you haven't already.
Yep.
Let's see. We got we got Boom, right?
Yep. So we have we only find them when they're dead. Issue 14. This is a book that I'm 2 arcs behind at this point. I don't know if
Wow.
I'll go back to it,
Yep.
but we'll see. We have the Vampire Slayer, issue 7. And then a couple of books that I'm reading. Stuff of Nightmares, issue 2. This is again R.L. Stein's horror book. It's really good. It's really good. Like, to me, I think of R.L. Stein. I think of 5th grade Scholastic, that
Sure.
kind of level of scary books. But it's a really good comic, actually.
Nice.
TLDR worthy. I'm not sure, but it's been really good. We'll see. It's only been 2 issues, so.
Hmm.
And then House of Slaughter issue 10. I mean, there's such an up and down with this side series, and like I really started like where this arc was going, and then it just stalled and just flatlined. Like, where are we going? There's no action. It's just talk. It's just a lot of dialogue, and then like the end of the issue, we got some action, and then the same thing with this one. It was a lot of dialogue to start, and then we get some stuff that kind of pulls you back in a little bit towards the end. I mean, there's a clear delineation between something is killing the children in this book. And even though Tynan, is credited as, script writing, on this, it's just those two aren't even in the same ballpark.
Hmm.
Really. Like, this is like, okay, this is stuff that's taking place in that universe and it's good. I would never do a TLDR issue on this particular side series, but
Sure.
like something is killing the children still to this day remains one of my top favorite books. It is that good. So
Yeah.
um yeah, but you've been reading Mighty Morphin Power Rangers issue 101. That also came out this week. And
And
then
this is Melissa Flores' first issue too, friend of the show. She's taking
oh,
over the
that's
series.
right. That's right.
Yes.
Good call. Thank you, Nicholas, for that. And then the book that this is it's a rare occasion in which Nicholas snags a Boom #1 from me, but he did so.
Hmm.
And be thankful, Nicholas, because I had it potted up on my computer ready to
Oh
go,
my
and
gosh.
I texted you
Oh.
before I started reading.
Oh my goodness, you almost briared me again.
I did.
Unbelievable. Yeah, Briar and then now Damn Them All. These are 2 titles. I saw them come out and it's like, okay, it's Boom. It's #1. What's the doc rule? And now the doc is also trying to tell me call dibs more. All right, I'm going to do it to him where it hurts him most with Boom. You'll think worse could possibly be AWA if I did that to you. I don't think I could ever get that by you. But Damn Them All is written by Cy Spurrier, who we've had on the show a little while back to talk about Step by Bloody Step. And the artist on this is Charles Adlard, who you may remember from the Walking Dead fame. So you have quite an all-star cast here coming together on this series. And I think the best way, I reviewed this for Geeks Worldwide, I think the best way to sum it up is was in the headline that I actually wrote. If you're Constantine fans need to read this series. Flat out. That is exactly the vibe that you are getting from this first issue. Of course, Cy Spurrier wrote Hellblazer a little while back. And if you liked his run at all, where Constantine is actually what John Constantine is supposed to be. Not just like this, oh, he's a bugger and like everybody says they hate him, but in the end, he kind of gets the job done and all that stuff. And like it works out for most everybody, right? No, I'm talking about like this guy is a clear as day dink. And he goes and screws people over in the end because he's trying to save everybody else and make things right. But somebody is bound to end up getting, like, is it losing a limb or maybe dying or whatever? And it's going to end fairly poorly for everybody involved. And a little bit of his soul dies in the course of it all. That's what I get from this from this character who's at the center of it all, Ellie, who's also nicknamed Bloody L. She is also British, so it seems to be set somewhere in England. I'm not sure exactly where, I forget. But also, Joe, it's kind of like, I don't think that Boom pitched it this way, or the elevator pitch, or whatever, but it feels like it's Constantine meets Newburn, because
Oh,
this character is working for the mob. So
wow.
I'm not entirely sure how close it's going to get to Newburn. Maybe that's why that wasn't in the pitch, or who the hell knows. But
I might
there's
have to start reading this.
definitely like a little bit of that. First issue was outstanding. I like L. I love the nickname Bloody L. I think that's
Yeah.
bloody brilliant, honestly. So this is sorry, a
Wow.
little on the nose. I know I'm better than that, I think. But great
Are you
first
though?
issue. I don't know. Great first issue. I think I gave it a 9.5 out of 10. Probably could have given it a 10 out of 10. I reserve those for some like absolutely crazy crackers first issues, but this is right there. It could not have had a better start to this issue, or this series. So I'm very excited about it moving forward.
That's awesome. That's absolutely sounds fantastic. I mean, literally 9 times out of 10, when Boom drops the number one, it's going to be heavy consideration for TLDR. It just is. They're that good, and
Yeah,
that brings us to this next studio, who also continues to put out must read books. Like I we got to extend. I think we have extended the doc rule to AWA as well. So
sure.
this week from them it's been New Think issue 5 and Absolution number 4. Um, when it came to New Think issue 1, I think we were both kind of like, oh, okay, it was good, but that was a little on the nose. The second issue was, I enjoyed it far more. And I thought it was excellent. So I got to catch up on that. I got to read the past couple issues on New Think, and then Absolution. Read the first issue, absolutely loved it. I've got issues, 2 through 4 as well. So I gotta just catch up on those, because that's been another series that I absolutely love. And I kind of put that on par, at least from when I read that first issue with Sacrament. Like, it's just like that level of, it was awesome. So Sacrament, we talked about that. That's been an excellent series as well. So those come out this week from AWA. I'm going to rip through a few of these other studios here, real quick,
Sure.
Nicholas, and then we
Actually,
can
I got you
get.
because you have the one last one that you want to dig
Okay,
into, so I'll take care of that for you. So
okay,
IDW, we got Sonic the Hedgehog issue 54, TMNT, the Armageddon game issue 2. A lot of the covers I'm seeing for that look pretty awesome. Godzilla, Best of Mothra, because again, they did all this with TMNT, so we got to do it with Godzilla. Valiant, we got Bloodshot Unleashed issue 2. Vault, Barbaric, a series I talked about on the show a little while back. Axe to Grind issue 3, and Nightfall double feature issue 1. From Skybound, which is also, of course, published under Image, we got Firepower 24 and Creepshow issue 2. And then, Joe, from do you want me to go to Comixology next, or should I go to Dark Horse next? What do you think?
go to Dark Horse. Go to
Okay,
Dark
we
Horse.
got Pearl Volume 3, Issue 6, The Roadie Issue 2, which I really like the first issue of that, and I called dibs on that series a little while back. We got Criminal, Macabre, and Count Crowley. From the Pit They Came, Issue 1. I'm stunned you didn't try and abbreviate that one. And then, Joe, we have Dead Mall Issue 1, which you wanted to dig into a bit.
Yeah, just real quick. This was interesting. This was a book that I'm about halfway. I get about halfway through it. I go, I don't know if this book's for me. And then we start to get a sense of where it's going, because you're trying to figure out who the narrator is, and it's obviously not one of the main characters. So, okay, where is this going? That was like, honestly, this is the first time where like the narrator sort of kept me going with the book, because it was interesting what they
Hmm.
were talking about, and I needed to see where it was going, because like the interaction between the characters and I was like, it really wasn't pulling me in. And
Mm-hmm.
then it kind of ends in a way where I'm like, okay, my interest has been piqued just enough to check out the second issue. So I wasn't like over the moon with it, but like there were some elements of it that pulled me in just enough. Just
Hmm.
enough. This wasn't one of those like, oh yeah, you get through it and bam, I'm baited, right? I'm in. I got like, this was like, okay, I'll give the second issue a go, see where it goes. But that, like, the second issue will be make or break it. For
Okay,
this is one of those type of series.
that makes sense.
Um, yeah.
Huh,
So it was it
interesting.
was it was good, not great, but it was weird that it was that element that kind of kept me
That is
into it,
wild.
because I wanted to know who it was, like who's the narrator, what is it that's going on here, because it was a dialogue with the narrator, honestly, that that kept me going with it.
It's Lord of the Rings that's got you all messed up now because you had the not Gandalf stuff and Halbrand throwing everything off. Yeah,
Right,
that's what
right.
it is.
Um,
Good to know. And then we got
yep.
Comixology before you get into your book. We have Canary issue 3 is supposed to be out this week. Been waiting on that one for a little bit. Have to double check, but that's a book that I'll be talking about on the show here at some point down the line. The Black Ghost season 2 issue 3. Joe apparently hates calling arcs seasons, which I
Yeah,
can't.
Comixology does this. They did it with Snow Angels, right? With Jeff Lemire's Snow Angels. Like, instead of
That's
just
right.
calling them volumes, it's seasons. Season 1, season. It's not a fucking television show. It's not. You don't call them
DC
fucking
does it too.
seasons.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't. I don't.
it's fucking dumb. It's
Mhm,
ludicrous. It's not a television show. Don't call
mhm.
it a fucking. Call it call them what it fucking is. It's a volume,
Yes, it's a
and that's
little odd.
That's Gilmore's grind. Gilmore grinds his gears.
Grinding
Right,
Gilmore's gears.
grinding Gilmore's gears. Right.
Yes, there you go.
Holy smokes.
Yes.
But anyways, I just fucking that drives me nuts. But with that said, Nicholas,
Mm.
the reason why we ended with Comixology and Dark Horse, because around a year ago, right? Maybe right around a year ago,
Right around a year ago.
we had a big event here on TLDR,
Yeah,
right?
we did.
Comixology launched Scottober, and it was announced that he was writing all these books, that were going to be initially exclusive on Comixology, and then over time would then be released as floppies through Dark Horse Comics. And we had Scott Snyder on and Greg Capullo on to talk about We Have Demons,
So
and then
good.
we continued to talk with Scott about Night of the Ghoul, Canary, Book of Evil, Barnstormers, all the full catalog of books, the clear that he was releasing, and we've gotten a lot of them. There's still some more to come, right?
Yeah.
And so we did our little draft, and we said, okay, you'll read these books, I'll read these books. We could talk about it on the show, but then oh fuck, here we are a year later, and we're just now talking about Night of the Ghoul, and Nick's pissed because he's been dying to read this book, and it has been, again, this is up for book of the year. It is that good. We told Rich Keefe of the Dork podcast to check it out. He read the first issue, absolutely loved it. So here we go.
Killing me. This was one
Yeah.
real quick before you get into it. We had to read the first issue of The Clear, Night of the Ghoul, and We
Yep.
Have Demons because of the conversation that we were having with Scott and
Yep.
Greg. So I did get a look at this first issue of this as you did We Have Demons. And after I read it, I was like, oh my God. I was so glad I got We Have Demons, and I like that series a lot. And I talked about it on the show earlier in the year, but man, I was like, I'm really going to be annoyed that I have to wait so long for this. And then how long it's taken to finally get hard copies of Night of the Ghoul, it's just been like, oh,
Yeah.
you saying you were going to read Sync, I was like, no. You don't have a choice in what you're talking about today, Joe. This is a dictatorship. That's what the show is now.
You know what I almost did last night, honestly, is that I almost took my notes for Night of the Ghoul and put them in a separate doc, and I almost put notes for Sync on here. So when you
that would have been an amazing joke. I thought you were going to say that you tweeted out you were going to talk Sync, because then John Lees would have been in on it, and then I'm like, oh, now you have to do it.
Yeah, I couldn't know, because I wouldn't give Sync its proper due.
Yeah.
So Night of the Ghoul, written by Scott Snyder, artist and colorist Francesco Francavilla, letters by Ann World Design, and I got to tell you, like, when it comes to horror, right, there are, I think Jock does a really great job, but there's something about Francovilla's art that is just, he was born to draw horror. He really was. Because, his artwork, throughout this series was absolutely tremendous. And, whether it's cover art or whatever other book he's involved in, like, I'm just so drawn to his art because it's not your typical, it's almost a throwback to me. I feel like if you were to read like horror comics from like, the 1960s or something like that, like, this is what you would get. But it's a lot more refined, but it's got that sort of old school, vibe to it. And so, quick synopsis: a dazzling work of horror intercutting between the present day narrative and a story of a lost horror film. The writer and artist behind Batman, The Black Mirror, reunite to shed light on a celluloid artifact once thought forever missing, perhaps with good reason. So as I stated before, this was originally on Comixology. So if you have Comixology Unlimited, you can go grab all 6 issues, boom, download them, read them. They're there. But they're now being released as floppies through Dark Horse Comics. I think we've got the first. Now I think I might be wrong, but they might be doing 3 issues with 2 issues per release. I'm not 100% sure on that. But from what League of Comic Geeks, they only showed 3 issues out, and so I'm wondering if they're doing like issues 1 and 2 together, 3 and 4 and 5 and
That
6.
makes sense. Yeah,
Could be wrong, but that's how they're
not a
doing
bad
it.
idea.
But just overall thoughts of this book. It was funny because when we sat down and when as you mentioned, we talked about, we got advanced copies of We Have Demons, The Clear, and Night of the Ghoul. We were immediately drawn to We Have Demons because it's Capullo and Snyder, right? We love that team. We love Capullo's art, and that first issue was fucking crackers.
Oh, God.
There was something about The Clear, though, that out of the 3, when I initially read them, The Clear was my favorite because of Francois Manipal's art and the vibrancy of it, and sort of that San Francisco noir, crime story like that. That to me is what initially pulled me in. And so when I read Night of the Ghoul, out of these 3, initially it was like third on my list. But then as I started reading it, it became, by the end of that second issue, I go, this might be the best Scott Tober book, period. There's still, I haven't read Canary, and a Book of Evil, which you're reading, I think dropped a week or 2 ago. I mean, I love The Clear. We Have Demons was excellent. Barnstormers has been a wonderful surprise. But there's something about this book. It is a perfect horror comic book, in the sense that we get that awesome Snyder storytelling, where he's got sort of like these kind of threads that go out, and when he's telling his narrative, and then by the end he just pulls them all together, and it just wraps up this story like perfectly, and every little thing, every little breadcrumb that you might have missed, all then comes together, and the twists and the turns that happen throughout this story is also excellent. And sort of, as the synopsis stated, there's a present day story, and then there's sort of this backstory that happens, these flashback scenes where you have sort of the 2 characters, like so what it's about is, you've got this horror film junkie and his son visiting a old retirement home, because they think they have found the long lost director of this movie, of this famous movie, Night of the Ghoul, that was supposed to be the greatest horror movie ever created, but never was released due to mysterious circumstances. The film set was burned down. They thought the movie was lost to time. No one knows what happened to the director, and they're obsessed. They want to finish the work of the director T.F. Merritt, and so they go to this old person's home, and they kind of lie to kind of gain access to talk to the person who they think is, and it turns out it is him. And so they want to find out where what happened that night, so they can kind of finish the story. And so as you see T.F. Merritt, he has been burned. He is this hideous looking, cretin creature of a man. And he's like, what, you didn't watch that movie? He's like terrified, but then he starts to tell the story. And it's through those flashbacks that you get this really good storytelling happening. And all the while, the guy, I got to go down to my characters here, Mr. Inman, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's the guy that's sort of obsessed with this movie, wants to. His son Orson's with him. His son is kind of a dick. There's some sort of falling out that happened between the 2 of them, but he's dragging him along, because I guess they used to share this passion for horror movies and stuff. And so, while those 2 guys are talking, he's sort of snooping around, and what he uncovers and just how everything comes together. It is so good. The suspense is perfectly paced, Nicholas. The backstory that you get, that's where you get a lot of the horror, and you get a lot of that suspense. And then when it all comes back, like because you have these sort of 2 threads going, and then when that gets knotted up and pulled together, and now it becomes like, whew, man, I can't recommend this book enough. And when I say that it is a true masterpiece, it really, that is not hyperbole. That's not hyperbilly. That's not, like, I try not to get so over the top and sell things because this stuff is subjective.
Sure. Sure.
But with Francavilla's art and Snyder's storytelling and just the way he weaves the twists and turns and how they all come to, and the revelations and the reveals and everything, like, this is a book that should be read. Like, this is a book I could see, like, oh, every October I read this book.
Really? That good?
Right, because
Wow.
it's just that good. And so it's like we talk about Red Fork on this book all the time. That's
Yeah.
a great horror book, but it's a different kind of horror book. That's
Mm,
more of a jump scare type horror book. That's more of
that's
like
a weird one. Yeah.
you know, a gruesome, and but there's that underlying like theme of addiction and all that, right?
That
With
was something, that book.
That was something, and that was, again, that's another one that should be read by everyone. This is just like, this just gives you that macabre, old school horror feeling when you
Mhm.
read it, and
That I got that from the art, yeah.
it does read like a movie, right? Like, this would make an excellent movie.
Hmm.
100% would knock your fucking tits off. So I can't wait for you to read this, and I can't wait to talk to you about it. And I can't wait for Keith to finish it too. Because honestly, if we were to go back on Dork again and do our top 10
Oh,
horror
yeah.
books, um, there's no doubt that this would be top 10, and it wouldn't surprise me if it was top 5.
Okay.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Honest to God, after reading that first issue, I mean, to hear after I read the first issue, I was like, okay, this is going to be a kick-ass series, and then obviously the whole thing has to kind of bear itself out and everything. You don't necessarily know, but I obviously trust your judgment completely. So for that momentum to carry over the entirety of the story, I mean that says it all right there. So I don't doubt you at all. That would have been a top 5 because we were pretty in lockstep when it came to that. I mean, and also we had Hotel on that list, we had the Autumnal on that list. Those were two absolutely
Yep.
in series. So yeah, that's God, yeah. I mean, this is why I was like, I knew this was gonna be good when I read it, and this is why like we've just been like, but sometimes I'm forgetting that we need to wait till the physical copies start coming out. That's kind of how we
Right.
want to do it. But God, it's been killing me that you
And
haven't talked about this book.
and what's great too is that, like, the movie itself is a character, right? And
So cool.
everything, right? So, like, which is a cool concept. So you've got like the physical characters, but then this idea of the movie and sort of, what it's just, it's perfect. It's fucking perfect.
Damn. That's I
Yeah.
mean, when you say you're gonna read it, it's something that you could see yourself reading every October. That says a lot to me. I know it's
Yeah.
especially now when it's tough because we're staying on top of everything, so it's kind of hard to go back and reread things unless it's for an actual show.
Right.
But yeah, I get but that's awesome. So yeah, I mean I think you answered my question about the one that we always ask each other.
Oh,
But
this would make an excellent movie. Excellent.
it sounds honestly, I don't think I need to ask you. Like as you're here talking about it, like no, this should be made into a movie, whether that's Netflix or actually cinematic. But man, awesome. I am pumped to give this one a look. I'm not gonna wait too long because I've been bugging you on it and I want to get after it. Anything else on Night of the Ghoul?
No, no, it was, read it. I mean, if you're a horror junkie, and if you're a horror junkie, go out, you can go to your store, you can find, hopefully you can find the first issue. If not, go on Comixology, and but you can buy them there digitally. Or if you've got Comixology Unlimited and this one missed you, you can read them for free. It's a must read, plain and simple.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, definitely a must read for me, and I'll be talking about that. Maybe checking that one out, and maybe when we finally do a trade again, in 2025, I will do that. As for me, I've been dying to talk about DC versus vampires. And so now, I'm not waiting around for the series to wrap up. I thought it would have been wrapped up by the time October came around, based on when the event first began. We'll get into that in a second, but first, the writer on this series, we got James Tynion and Matthew Rosenberg working together. We've obviously seen those two do quite a bit at DC. I guess Tynion kind of trying to help Rosenberg become one of the guys over there at DC and helping him transition, as Tynion has obviously gone and done a lot of his own stuff. The artist on this series, Otto Schmidt, who I think is the best Green Arrow artist out there, period. In Canary, Black Canary for that matter as well. He does such a good, like his style, which there is a similarity in the sketchiness to who we just to Sean Murphy and I guess to Abel to some extent, but I guess where Abel is more his lines are similar and like the structure of faces and whatnot. That's where he and Murphy are similar. Where Murphy and Schmidt are similar, not to bring everything back to Sean Murphy, but there's the edginess of it, no, sorry, the sketchiness of it with their art styling that Abel doesn't necessarily have. His is a little bit more refined, I guess I would say, when it comes to his work. But I love Otto Schmidt stuff. I love when he was drawing Green Arrow and Black Canary. I believe it was for Rebirth. I think he was doing that stuff. But I think it was Benjamin Percy that was writing that as well. But anyways, he's the artist on this series. He's doing both the colors and the line art. The letterer on this is Tom Napolitano, of course, a name you see pop up a lot in this in comics. As for the synopsis, the Justice League has long protected Earth from all manner of foreign and alien invaders over the years, always keeping a vigilant eye to the skies for the next threat. But what if the threat was already walking the Earth, hiding in plain sight, watching, waiting for their moment to strike? In the tradition of Deceased comes a terrifying new series from the twisted minds of blah, 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 that will tear the Justice League apart in their war with the undead. And that is not an understatement whatsoever. And it's not just in the like, hey, we're going to go and like rip each other to shreds. I think that's kind of more what you get from Deceased. With DC versus Vampire, there is a lot of like chess moves in this. There's a lot going on because with these vampires, we've seen it like over the years. There are some vampires where it's like, hey, in plain sight, like that's clearly a vampire. You can see their fangs or whatever, different shit like that. But with these vampires here, you can't tell. It's just anybody, and not just anybody. We're seeing DC's heroes turn into vampires, and you don't know that they're vampires until they want you to know that they're vampires. So anybody can be a problem in the course of it all. I mean, as far as characters go, I want to be like, you get all of DC involved in this series. Green Arrow is very much at the center of this. The Bat family is very much at the center of this. Constantine has some significant role in the course of all this too. Of course, the series is not wrapped up, but I wanted to talk about the series in October. This is going to be a 12-issue series. There's a sub-story in here as well. And there was also a one-off, but we've only gotten 10 issues of it so far, but they've been great. So I don't have much doubt about how the plane's going to be landed, especially with Tynion being involved in this series. The sub-story is All Out War. I know I expressed frustration about All Out War originally. The big thing for me was it was pretty much black and white with the exception of like red and orange being featured as a color in there. The big problem for me was there was a long pause at one point with DC versus Vampires with the main line. And then we get back to it and it's like, we have All Out War. And I'm just like, what is this? What is going on? Like, you have cool characters like Deathstroke's at the center of it. Constantine, Azrael, like all cool characters that I would love to see in the mix. But why are we doing this over here? Like, give me the actual main line. And then we got the one-off Hunters, which was good. A little bit more felt like it was less of a sidestep and more of a moving the story forward. But I since went back and looked back over some of the stuff that's out from All Out War, and it's like, okay, I was in that moment just frustrated because this stuff is actually really cool what we get in that sub story as well, which also is not wrapped up just yet. There's only 4 issues of that out so far, but so again, you got a lot of characters in the mix there that maybe you don't see as much in the course of the main line. But I don't want to get too much into the other characters that are involved in DC and like who's the main characters in all this. I will say Green Arrow. Like, if you're a Green Arrow fan, you're going to get a lot of cool stuff from him. But everybody else, like, I just think you're better off knowing you cannot trust anybody in the course of all
that.
Yeah.
Love that.
It is wild. Like, the twist you get in the first issue alone is like, we talk about when we had Sean Lewis on last, where he talked about that propulsion after we talked to him about Above Snakes, the propulsion that takes you from like one monthly issue to the next. you get that in this first one, and you get it a lot throughout the course of that first arc. And it's just like every time it's like, holy shit, there's a lot of action. You have like people you suspect, you don't know, you don't need like, and they do a great job of hiding everything. You have no clue what's going to happen from page to page. You have no idea who's safe in all this. And the kind of the driving force behind all of the DC characters getting in the mix is Mary, Queen of Blood, which I believe is a name we've kind of seen in vampire history over the years. She has been killed, and that action kind of sets everything in motion. But the big thing is like, who brought her down, who's trying to pull the strings and everything, and what's going on. And you find that out, or like I think it's issue 6 where you find out like, all right, who is the puppet master now, who is calling all the shots now. And oh god, it's nuts, it's absolutely friggin' nuts. I don't want to say any more than that because I don't want to in any way tip my hand. Um, but anybody can be turned into a vampire. There's one thing I want to throw where I say like, you can't. No one is safe. Any of the DC heroes or DC villains, as far as I can tell, any of them can be turned into a vampire. So like any person you see, you don't know till like till you know. I guess is the best way to put it. But yeah, so it's very, it's not, this is not like a scary thing. Yes, it gets violent. Yes, it gets vicious at times. I mean, Otto Schmidt definitely has a lot of fun. But I would say this is more of like horror elements with a lot of action in the mix. Yeah, there are some like surprising moments where it's like, oh fuck, but not like, this is more like your like your nephew could probably read this series, and I would think he would end up being fine. But I know you'd be fine reading it. At least I hope. Yeah, maybe I'm backwards on that one.
Yeah, I read Deceased, and that was fine. That was enjoyable. That's more zombie shit, but it was pretty good. It was. I think it's what's unique about this. What's unique about Deceased is that it's fun seeing these characters, you know, in much different roles, right?
Yeah.
And especially the artwork that comes with it. So I'll definitely have to check this out because I remember when it came out, and I was like, I had just read Deceased. I'm like, kind of like, you know what I mean? Like, it was
Yeah.
a lot. Like DC for a while had done a lot of this, like DC vampires, DC's, zombies, Marvel zombie. It's like, I'm good.
hmm
I'm
So
good. But
two
this sounds
things.
very interesting.
As you guys go and look at it, I would wait until the whole series done to check it out. I mean, yet Lord knows we all have enough to read, so you can go and maybe read. I think they did like what they're doing with the medieval story that they got going on, which I think is on pause as well, the Tom Taylor stuff. But I think they did 3 issues, and that's a collected edition, and 3 issues, and that's a collected edition. But it seems like the first 6 issues, like there's a pretty big gap from the first 6 to like in time. I mean, like in the course of the story, like there's like a lot happens from issue 6 to issue 7. It's just like the world,
Yeah.
whatever. But I think everybody's better off probably just waiting until this series wraps up, then go and pick everything up and binge the hell out of it. When it comes to this, though, there's a lot of characters, and you can see it right now. On my screen, you'll see it for those who aren't watching the stream. One of the covers that I have is Batman clearly in vampire form. Now, what? Go ahead.
I was gonna say Francisco Mattina does a variant on each one of these issues,
hmm
focused around a different DC superhero, and they are fucking excellent.
They're so
That
good.
Batman one
Yeah,
behind you
that's
is
so good.
Mattina.
There's
He is
one in
so good.
particular. There's one that I think I want to get you that I don't want to. I'm not going to say just
Is it the
because like
Nightwing one?
I'm not saying anything because like I'm not saying shit, Joe, because I ain't because like I want you guys all to know. That's what I was going to get into with the covers. Don't read into any of the covers. Like they're
Okay,
all cool shit. Like the only person I told you guys pretty much who's like it's a big story for is Green Arrow. There are other characters who is big for, but I feel comfortable singling him out, and it's not going to spoil much, at least for me to this point. Like that's the only one so far. So
because Mattina's Nightwing cover, I can't remember what issue it was. But it's on the Instagram page for today's
cool.
post. It's just fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Just Francisco Martinez, he's one of the best when it comes to cover artists, and Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, that is an awesome one. That is
Yeah.
absolutely sick. He has done a lot of really really good ones. So like if you like the DC characters, this is a lot of fun. This is very metal in a lot of ways. And it's in in the way again you never feel comfortable, and this is like an Elseworld thing. So anybody could I think run into anybody can get off in the course of this story. So a lot of fun. You will not you will not be disappointed reading this series.
Love that. Absolutely love that, Nicholas.
Now do we want to do a little failed superheroes club? We kind of have a little bit of time. What do you think?
If you can, I exited out of the notes, so it's gonna
You
take me a
did?
second.
Okay. Well, I'm
Well,
gonna.
no, I haven't read it, so do it because now I won't be able to look ahead and see. So I'll be
Oh,
completely
that's good. I actually do. I do like that a lot. Unfortunately, I can't
Torn Eagle
find.
MVP, baby. You know
Yeah.
who Torn Eagle is?
No, I do not.
The other Billy D.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. So, quick little failed superheroes club because we have not done one of these in a while. The Fab Four, Joe. Have I talked about the Fab Four on here?
The Beatles, huge Beatles guy.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So, of course, the Failed Superheroes Club is brought to you by the League of Regrettable Superheroes, which is like a book. Yeah, not like a book. It is a book by John Morris. It's about the history of comic book characters that were introduced over the years that were pretty much just shitty in the end. They didn't end up working out. And there's some in the modern era that we'll talk about that I'm kind of surprised were singled out. But the Fab Four, not to be confused with the Beatles, not to be confused with it was the Fab Five, I think, at Michigan, not to be confused with them either. These characters were created by Don Amison and debuted in Superheroes issue 1 from Dell Comics in January 1967. Of course, a very original title. Who could forget that one, Joe? So the
I've
origin
got it
story.
hanging on my wall.
Of course you do, up in Baghead, right next to all your
Yeah,
John Boy work.
that's
Who can
right.
forget his variant on that series, of course, as well. 1967. What
And
was he like?
Sheldon did a really good cover for that too. Really great motion on whatever one of these schmucks is.
So stupid. So the origin for these characters. This is a group of sightseeing teenagers visiting.
Oh, it's a comic about leaf peepers. Are you fucking me?
Joe, they are visiting the Dell Hall of Heroes. So this is a Dell Comics book, Dell comic book, whatever, and it's got its own Dell Hall of Heroes in the actual fucking book. Like it's trying to do what Deadpool does and gets meta, and it just sounds absolutely awful. Apparently, before they make it to the gift shop in this story, they get caught in a science explosion from a nearby lab, and that gives these kids powers to transfer their. This is honestly some of the shittiest ideas I've ever heard. The explosion gives the kids the power to transfer their minds into a quartet, because there's 4 kids, a quartet of android superheroes that were on display at the hall and unrevealed. That is their superpower. They can take their minds and put it into these superhero robots. That's how it
Okay.
works.
Okay.
We have Reb Ogilvy. His superhero name is Crispy. He's he's a cryogenic, so he like freezes stuff. Which
Wait.
Crispy,
Okay,
yes,
wait. His name's Red Ogilvy. His superhero name is Crispy, but he
Reb.
freezes shit.
Yep,
Reba. He
Reb.
freezes shit.
No A. Reb, not red.
Reb.
Reb. Like it's bad.
Reb.
It's stupid.
Still.
Yep.
It should be fire. It should be fire.
Yes.
Crispy.
Yep. I don't get it.
Jesus.
Yep. So there's that. Then we got Tom Dennis. His superhero name is Hyde. HY. Which stands for hypersonic.
To
So
say Hyman.
nope. Then we got Danny Boyd. His superhero name is EL, like 11, which stands for laser. That is what his name is L, and it stands for laser.
Oh, laser. Should be La.
I,
Right? Laser.
I mean, yeah.
Laser.
Either way, it's terrible. Like
What? This is absolutely fucking ludicrous.
And then the lone female character in this is Polly Wheeler, and her superhero name. I don't know if this is the worst one, but they're all really bad. Polymer Polly. She's able to weave nearly unbreakable polymer strands.
This is the only one that makes fucking sense.
It's
You know, at least this is like taken out of the Stan Lee book of naming characters, right? Polymer, and
Yep.
her superpower actually like goes with her name, like crispy and ice, L and late. Like this one
So-
might take the cake as the dumbest fucking one we've done on this show so far.
It's bad, man. I mean, and guess what? It only gets worse. So these kids apparently travel all around America throughout their series, which was only 4 issues long, if you can believe
Oh,
it.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised. This was, you know, what they couldn't at least get a maxi issue out of this. 12 issues. It's fucking wild.
Somehow, though, Joe, as they're traveling all around the country, they're always right near the Dell Hall of Heroes. Apparently, they never, and I know it's only 4 issues, so maybe they would have touched on this at some point down the line. Maybe I'll give them a little bit of credit here. But in the course of the 4 issue run that they had, we readers have no clue what happens to the kids' bodies when their minds are possessing the robots. They just go and do that, and then that's it. All right. No idea where the kids' bodies are. We're fine. Everything's good.
They're having a fucking gangbang in the back.
Jesus. Good Lord. My God. Well, okay.
I already wrote a better story.
You
right
did.
there.
I guess so. I guess you did. Let's see. Then we got the villains in this. We have these are okay. The names here are I don't know if they're better. So we got the clown.
Okay.
Which is, I mean, also that's also a Spawn villain too, if we're being honest. So he's just clown.
Yeah.
We got Johnny Boom Boom, Mr. Nut. So maybe you were right about
yeah, I wasn't far off the gangbang shit here.
Jeez, and then we got Nepto the Shark Man and Coal Man. That's all I got for you, Joe.
Shark Man.
That is like the Neptune? Fab Four.
Jesus Christ, this one takes the cake. This is a piece of work. The Nut,
Mr. Nut,
and what was the other one?
Nepto the Shark Man.
No, not that guy.
Oh, Johnny Boom Boom.
Johnny Boom Boom and the Nut.
Yeah. And the clown. That sounds like
that sounds like a bad porn parody.
Yes, it does. that is a party I do not want to be invited to. That's for damn sure.
No.
Anyways, isn't it the name from Mac and Goo now? Aren't they the clown and Mr. Nut? Is that their name? Maybe it's something else. I can't remember. I screw that up. Anyways,
I would rather read that dumb fucking hamster book than this.
So ridiculous. I don't get how this kind of stuff happened. I mean,
I need to find. They need to print those. I need to fucking read this. I need an issue.
DC, just do it. Why not? Just go buy it.
I gotta find this,
of course, please. But Joe, that is all we have for this week. It's been a while since we got to do a mainline and get to do a failed Superheroes Club.
Yeah.
God, that was a doozy. I remember writing that one and thinking, I wrote that one months ago. I was thinking, this is going to be some real shit.
Yeah,
it was. But
Jesus Christ.
Anyways, we got our November solicit coming up. Next issue. Make sure again, if you haven't already, subscribe to the show. Leave a 5-star rating. It helps us out a ton, and a review too, if you can as well. But until then, Joe, stay sexy.
You know it.